Hello and welcome to the info session for game development at Warren Tech. I will be covering a lot of the aspects of the actual game development program, but for information about Warren Tech in general, transportation issues, other issues about the academics, please contact our wonderful counselors at Warren Tech, or go to the FAQ that's on the Warren Tech Open House website. And there are several info sessions available during open house as well. Let's go ahead and start with who I am. My name is Stuart Compton. I have been working with computers and art for about 40 years. I've been making computer games since it has been possible to make computer games. So from the early 8-bit games, I'd say 8-bit, but I was doing it during 2 bits. In any case, I have worked for Sierra Online, Microsoft, EA. I've been an art director for Sony. So AAA companies is what they're called. I have founded 2 small game companies, one of which I still run. I still do small mobile apps. I am semi-retired now, but the semi part of that is I'm teaching. And that experience is now available to students. So with that background, you'll notice that nowhere in that background is teaching. At this point, I have been teaching for about 8 years. So I have a little bit under my belt, but when I started, and even now, I stick to my strengths. I know how to run a studio. I know how to manage a team. So the approach we take for game development at Warren Tech is an apprenticeship studio. So what is an apprenticeship studio? The simplest way to put it is learn as you work. It's a very, very old model, apprenticeship. Just working alongside, doing the job next to someone who knows what they're doing, and just learning as you do the job. And that's what we do here. Our studio name, as you will see down in the bottom left, is 3-to-1 Games. The name comes from the skills you learn, and we'll cover that in just a moment. But the reason we do this as an apprenticeship studio is the quirkiness of the game industry. First of all, the game industry is a major employer. It employs more people and spends more money than Hollywood does, than the film industry in the US does. So it employs over 200,000 people. It pays them well. It's a lucrative career, meaning it pays them well. And but a few of the weird quirks of the game industry is the game industry has no certifications. It has no certificate you can earn to say, I know how to 3D model, I know how to rig an animation, I know how to do animation. There are certificates available for specific software, but the industry doesn't care about those. They don't care if you have a certificate from Autodesk saying, I know how to use Maya. They could care less. The game industry wants you to have relevant skills. It doesn't care where you got them. It rarely requires a traditional college degree. Occasionally it will be listed as extras, as a plus. A computer science degree or an art degree or something like that. But it's rarely listed as a requirement for a computer game job. The game industry wants you to have those relevant skills, but the way they have you prove you have relevant skills is by requiring you to have already made and published a game. That's their certificate. The catch-22 of that is not their concern. So the catch-22, of course, is you can't get a job in the game industry without having experience, and you can't get experience without having a job in the game industry. That's where we fit in. By becoming an apprenticeship studio, I require students, in order to receive an A in this program, to publish a game. With a published game under their belt, they're that notch further ahead than almost any other applicant to intro-level jobs in computer games. Now, what about those relevant skills? What do I mean by relevant skills? Well, it takes a lot of skills to put a game together, and it can't be done alone. So we always work in teams, always. So first of all, there's the obvious. Whenever someone says game development, they think you're talking about programming. And we are, but it's not just programming. We do teach some very advanced programming here. Object-oriented programming, scripting languages, C++, networking, gameplay, tools and pipelines, artificial intelligence, 3D rendering. I could go on for 15 minutes just listing them. But a coder alone can't do a successful game. They also need artists. And by artists, I don't just mean visual artists. I also mean musicians and sound effects people. Anybody who creates the content that goes into a game. So artists is a broad spectrum of skills too. We need 3D modelers, 3D sculptors, materials design, concept creation, pretty much just somebody who thinks up the visual look of monsters, characters, so forth. We need animators, special effects people, and what's known as technical artists. But there is one thing that all artists in computer games have in common. They have strong traditional art skills. They draw. They sketch. And if you don't already, we'll teach you. But you are expected to keep a sketchbook here if you are an artist and moving on that career path for this program. But there is a third realm of skills that we also require to make a good game. And this is the one that nobody expects. We need writers. We need people to come up with the stories for games, the rules for the games. They need to come up with how the game works together. They need to convey those ideas for how the game works through technical writing. They need to do creative analysis of successful games from the past so that they can create the successful games of the future. And they need a good sense of fun and what fun is, because that comes from the designer. So these are the skills you need. But how do you acquire those skills? How do we convey those skills to you within this program? That's not where I come in. That's where you as a student comes in. Because this is student driven. Once a student makes the decision that I want to be an artist to make computer games, then it is the student's responsibility to look, find where they want to go, and begin to pursue that. If they have no clue where to go, I'm your guide. But what I don't do is there are no lectures. There's no me standing up in front of the class and going, first you do this. Is everybody with me on that? Now you do that. No, not like that. You do it like that. That's not what I'm here to do. Computer games is a technological field. And all technological fields change on a daily basis. Anything, any technology that I would teach you in the next year, in the next 2 years, would be out of date before you graduated high school, let alone graduated college and were ready to be employed. So the skill I can teach you above all others, whether you're an artist, whether you're a programmer, or whether you're a designer, the skill I can teach you more than anything else is how to teach yourself. This may seem counterintuitive, to go to school to learn to teach yourself, but it's not something that you've been asked to do before. But here, I ask you to do it, because it's the only way to succeed within technology. And amongst the technology fields, computer games is one of the worst for changeability. It changes all the time, and you have to stay on your toes. That's what I'm trying to teach you. The technology is wonderful, and making games is a whole lot of fun, but you certainly need to stay current in your field. So that's what I help you do. So when you go through those tutorials, when you are frustrated with trying to learn something that's badly documented, and that frustration is very real, as these students can tell you, as you go through that frustration, that's why I'm here. I am not your lecturer. I am your guide. I am your mentor. I am the person who's done it before, so when you get stuck, you can say, how does this work? And I can look over your shoulder and say, right. This one is particularly frustrating. Here's the direction you should go, but try again and see if you can do it. And if you can't get it within the next couple hours, you come talk to me again and we're going to go over it together. But the responsibility is always with the student. The student must take responsibility for their own learning. And that means finding the tutorials. That's part of learning how to learn. That comes with asking questions when you need and knowing where to ask questions. And I am one of the sources of this. But it is all student-driven. And that begins on day one when the students get together with complete strangers and try and put together a project for a game that they want to make. A project that may last a semester, may last a year, may last 2 years. But they need to make a game. The good news is for the first time in your life, students, you will be with a whole group of people who shares your goal and your interests. They are all people like you. They're all nerds like us. So, they may be strangers, but you start with something in common. That's the upshot of the computer game program and 3-to-1 games, our Apprenticeship Studio. You've got to have a lot of questions, both parents and students. I hope you'll ask them now, and I will do my best to answer them about the game development program. But remember, if it's things about Warrantech in general, please go to our counselors, go to our websites. I am not an expert on Warrantech. I am an expert on games. So thank you very much.